Good morning, everyone. We'll start with the Vort Torah I thought of last week. I think it's worthwhile. And then we'll continue with our Tefillah and Brachos course. Somehow it occurred to me there are three ways of doing Kiddushin, as the Mishnah lists in the first Mishnah of Masech Kiddushin. It's not exactly marry, because marriage is another phase in becoming a married couple, but there's Kiddushin and then Nisuin. So for the Kiddushin, there are three options that the Mishnah suggests. Kesef, Shtar, Biyah. Kesef is money, which means any object that's worth money. Shvei kesef kesef. That's why that's the basis of using a ring to do Kiddushin. Right? Mekudeshet li, with this ring, but the bad zok in Moshe Israel. So that's the option we've chosen. All of Klal Yisrael, all of Am Yisrael for many generations has chosen this option of kesef in order to enact the Kiddushin. Shtar is a contract when you write a well, I guess there it's not paper, it's cloth on parchment. Red mekudeshet li b'shtar zeh Kirat Moshe Israel, and it's written by a sofer, and it's l'shem lishma for this man and this woman. Then they're married by handing over this document. This option is not used by, as far as I know, any Eidah, any type of tradition in Am Yisrael. It was canceled. I don't know when. I'm interested to find out when they stopped using shtar, but it's not used today. The ketubah has nothing to do with kiddushin. The ketubah doesn't enact kiddushin. The ketubah has to do with settling matters before, during marriage and after marriage. Chas v'chalila, should never know of after marriage situations of separating. Then there is biyah relations. There was another way to enact kiddushin. That was already canceled in the days of Rav, the first generation of Amoraim, one of the greatest Amoraim ever. Rav would give the slashes, man gid Rav, man de mikalish biyah. Remember, use that as an act of kiddushin because of pritzuta. It's not on its newt level. We have to understand why the Mishnah anyway suggests that option, but we don't use that. So I thought to myself that really the Mishnah is hinting to three different phases in marital life. Of course, it's not the pshat of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is suggesting three options of enacting kiddushin at the very first moment of becoming a couple. But it could be hinting towards three stages, three phases in marital life. And we've all gone through them. It's impossible not. It's a known secret from to bachelors who aren't so don't realize this so much, because when they're grown up and ready to marry, their parents are either settled and living a good life together, or terrible and maybe divorced beforehand. So it's hard for bachelors to understand and realize what their parents went through in much younger years. But it's famous that we go through stages and phases in marital life. Actually, I'm studying this course now of counseling, marital counseling. So we get to hear a lot of stories and issues regarding these points. So firstly, the very first connection between chassan and kala, and then a newlywed couple, is very external. You barely know each other well internally. It's very external. You start understanding and realizing more and more who you've married. But in the beginning, it's just the external behavior and the external thoughts and be gifting one another, all kinds of things like that that make it a bond by an external, very external phase of marriage. So that's kesef. Kesef is just to give over a gift to one another and to compliment and hopefully not speak nastily towards one another, nasty way. And that's the external connection bonding that begins in the first few years of marital life, just trying to get to know each other. So that's the first few years, and then we have after that what we call Berchot, where the two sides try to get it their way, try to get it done their way. So the husband wants it his way, the wife wants it her way, and then there's a little bit of struggling and trying to prove that each one individually tries to prove their way is the correct way, and then there's a little bit of friction after stepping out of the first stage of just external acquaintancy between the husband and wife. Then comes shtar, the phase where they realize that instead of fighting so much, let's try to come to terms and understand each other and see where we fit. How can we marry each other? That becomes a more internal relationship now, where they're understanding that there's a true bonding between the two and not just external. After going through some fights and some arguments to prove, each one proving their way, now they understand that the two ways can complement each other, and they realize that their bonding is so secure and so strong because they married each other. Before actualizing the internal connection, you first come to realize that you were meant to be together. You marry each other, then you're meant to do so. And your neshamot connect, and there's something that complements each other and creates a better person out of the two of you. So that's the shtar. The shtar is a brit, kritat brit, like kritat choseh, a covenant that we feel now, brit nisuin, we feel we're together eternally, forever. That's the stage where we come to realize that instead of fighting so much, let's work together. And it's much more than external. It's to come to realize internally that you're one. But that stage doesn't last too long until, it takes time from that stage to actualize this eternal bonding. To actualize it means that now you start deepening your relationship. And to deepen your relationship, you need a lot of finding in all the details of life, finding how you complement each other, finding out how come the other person, the husband or the wife on the other side, is really helping me become a better person, a better individual. That takes a long time to realize this and to work on this, that we should feel together. We should feel that we're one entity. To reach that point of feeling one, like your own body and soul, your husband or your wife are together now as one body, one soul. That takes a long, long time to develop. After realizing that you're meant to be together, the shtar, the brit, the covenant, now actualizing it takes a lot of time to realize how much you're really one, how much it isn't two different bodies in two different ways. It's all one entity that is actualized in your marriage. So that takes a long time, if ever, to reach that point. The famous story of Rabbi Levine with his wife going to the doctor when they were in the 90s, and he says to the doctor, my wife's leg is hurting us. And that means that he really reached that level, which is a very high level of feeling the pain that his wife had, himself feeling that pain. That's something very, very tremendous, high level of bonding, of feeling one. So that's biyah. That's where we are like one body. Our relationships are like relations. They're like one person. And we have that in the pasuk in the Torah. Al ken ya'azovish et aviv et imo v'davak b'ishto v'ayu levasar echad. It happens very, very externally in the beginning of marriage. Then it goes up the step of shta when you understand that you're together forever. And to actualize v'ayu levasar echad is at the end of the marriage, or going through many, many years of togetherness. And that's a v'davak b'ishto, that they're glued together as if one person. That's why they were created. Adam and Eve, in the first place, were created as connected, two bodies connected to each other, like Siamese twins. And then Hashem split them into two with the famous surgery he did, putting them to sleep and split them into two. That's one of the ways Chazal described creation of Adam and Eve. That's to remind us that we're really one. Just we were split in the beginning of our lives into two neshamot, two halves of one neshama. There was one neshama up in heaven, split into two. One was sent down to a little baby girl, and the other to a little baby boy, and they grew up, and then they found each other, and they're reunited. They've reunited to become one neshama. That's the feeling we're supposed to have, and that's the internalizing we're supposed to internalize, and that's the actualizing we're supposed to actualize as one. That's how the stages and phases of marriage go. And hopefully we're able to reach the highest level of marital life. Okay, so that's just for a short report of our Torah on the just Torah of last week. Now we'll go on to Tefillah. So we're in the midst of Hatzadikim. At least we're stuck, quote unquote, on a positive and and nice bracha. We've done 4 out of 5 groups, or 4 out of 6 groups that this bracha is related to. Al Hatzadikim, Ve'al Chasidim, Ve'al Ziknei Sheris Amcha Beit Yisrael, Ve'al Pesas Beit Sofrim. This is a Hashkenaz, it's a little different, but it's the same meaning. Okay, so we've done the 4. Now the next one. Ve'al Geirei HaTzedek. This is very interesting that we enumerate the Gerim, the converts, as a separate category. And not only do we enumerate a separate category, if we're right by saying that each group here that's enumerated, that's listed in this bracha, is on a higher level than the previous group, as we've mentioned already a few times, tzaddikim, and then chasidim. Chasidim are above tzaddikim. And above them, ziknei sheret Amcha Beit Yisrael, ziknei Amcha Beit Yisrael, those are the Talmidei Chachamim. And above them, sofreihem, which are those who are the Dolei Ador, the ones who we compare to the Sheikh Knesset Gdola, who were called Sofrim. Those who were careful to count every letter of the Torah. That's why they were called Sofrim, because they realized that there's no extra letter in the Torah. And they derived halachos from every letter of the Torah. That's Dolei Ador. So we're climbing up and up and up. And then we reach the highest, or almost highest, the converts. They are a higher level than all the rest. Now, it doesn't mean that they can reach the relationship with Hashem and the closest to Hashem higher than the other groups that we've listed here. It doesn't mean that. It means they've gone through a tremendous turnover in their life. They were going, and to become Jewish is something tremendous effort-wise. They had to do so much effort to become a convert. Imagine leaving your entire environment, leaving your entire philosophies of life, understandings of life, the way you grew up, and switching totally to a different religion. It's something very filled with effort, and it requires courage. They're very courageous to do such a thing. And especially when we're talking about Gerei Hatzedek. Unfortunately, nowadays for sure we see this, that we have a lot of Gerim that aren't necessarily Gerei Hatzedek. They come they join the Am Yisrael for external reasons. They want to marry a Jew. They feel it's a good life living in Israel. So they convert, but they don't really mean it. I'm not going into the whole halachic issue behind the situation. There's a lot of politics within the halachic decisions about understandings about converts today, conversion today. But the bracha here specifically emphasizes Gerei Hatzedek. Only they are at a very high level that they've made such an effort, and a true effort, sincere effort, to become Jewish. It still, again, doesn't mean that their relations with Hashem are the strongest or the highest level, because we know, according to the Kuzari, Rabbi Levi, he says that converts can never become prophets. The level of nevu'ah, of prophecy, not that any of us have become, but Jews potentially can become prophets and prophesize. Gerim cannot. That's how the Kuzari holds, unlike the Rambam. The Rambam says they can. The Rambam says it all depends on your personal achievement, no matter where you are. Right, there was Ovadia, and there was Bilam, who was a Goy, who received prophecy. Right, he was a Jew, and he gave prophecy. So first of all, it's a dispute in the Midrash whether Ovadia was a convert. It's not so sure. There are opinions like this, opinions like that. But even opinions that he really received prophecy, to every rule, there are exceptions to the rule. But we find all the time. Yeah, it could be like the Rambam, but we don't know. As I said, even though Jew became a prophet in our days yet, but Rav Kook was very close to it. But it could be an exception to the rule, according to the Kuzari. According to Levi, it's an exception. Like every rule has exceptions. Like Dvorah, she was a prophet, but that's not an exception. Women are definitely able to become prophets. The exception by Dvorah was that she was Shoftayet Israel. She was a judge as well. And we know that a woman is Pasule Dayanut. She cannot be a judge. So Dvorah was Keora'at Sha'ah, it says. It was an exception. She became the judge on Bnei Israel in those days. Anyhow, so I'll also mention very interesting point here also in the Hallel that we say, coming from Tehillim, of course. It says like this: "Hudu LaHashem ki tov ki le'olam chasdo, Yomar na Yisrael ki le'olam chasdo." Israel are all those who are Israel when they have an Aliyah Torah. They are Israel, not Levim, not Kohanim. They're Israel, so they should also thank Hashem. Yomruna Beit Aaron ki le'olam chasdo. Beit Aaron are all the Kohanim and Levim, all those from Shevet Levi. Yomruna Yirei Hashem ki le'olam chasdo. So who's left to be considered Yirei Hashem after we've already said Israel and Beit Aaron? We've included all Jews. So who's left to be Yirei Hashem? Says Rashi, Elo HaGeirim. Rashi says on this pasuk in Tehillim, Kuf Yudchet, Yirei Hashem, Elo HaGeirim. So again, we see that the Geirim, the converts, as long as they are Yirei Hashem, yes, as long as they do it sincerely, and they're really Hashem fearing, so they are considered on a very high level, even on top of Israel and Beit Aaron, because of all the effort they've put into it to become sincere Jews. And we find in the Torah 36 times that we should love the Geirim. 36 times it repeats itself in the Torah. Special treatment for the Geirim, because as people who came from the outside, people who have joined our nation, we need to be as hospitable as possible. Achnasat orchim. That's probably the highest level of achnasat orchim, is to care for the Geirim. It's, by the way, besides the fact that it's a great mitzvah and Benadar Chaver are very important, it's also very important to be inclusive and host them and accept them properly, because that's the main factor that keeps them in. If they're not escorted by a Jewish religious family from birth, they won't, or doesn't be tshuva, whatever, but strong religious family, it's very difficult for them to remain religious. And one of the points that we're lacking, unfortunately, in this whole course of conversion, they take a course of 10 months, a year, sometimes 4 years in Chutzarts. I've heard they have to go through 4 years of studying, and then they become converts. They many times lose it on the way after becoming converts, after becoming Jewish. They lose it because they're not welcomed into communities. They don't have anyone escorting them after their conversion. It's a very critical point in order to keep them in. And I've spoken to a few people about this idea and trying to develop an after conversion course, and not only before conversion. It's nice that they study a lot of Torah and learn a lot of things before conversion, but they have to continue learning as we continue learning all our life. So they should have like a parallel course or some type of class, getting together once a week, once a month, as frequently as they can take, in order to continue learning, continue studying. It's not enough you became Jewish. Okay, now what? Let's start learning all the details. You can't in 10 months learn the entire Torah Kula. You only learn the main parts, the main sections. To learn all the gritty details and to live by them, you need to continue studying. That's not something that's so available to them. Unfortunately, also, they may not want to come. You can offer it, you can suggest this type of study. Who says they're going to come? Right.
Meaning you're saying offer this, offer that. If they're part of a community and people accept them, then they become to offer it for everyone else also.
Right.
There are things going on all the time in every community.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
At all different levels,
right.
Dinner. I mean, there's different things that are going on. Overall,
right.
Like
even just to join our right.
Is on us that we
right.
Are not, so
welcome it.
We're not accepted.
Right. That's the politics behind it is very terrible, very bad.
As you said,
right.
Conversion is between everybody.
The what?
There's disagreement between many people.
Right.
Today, and they feel it.
Right.
It makes sense.
Right.
I actually had a convert over the Shabbos.
Yeah. So
you
know ahead of time? Wow.
One of Rose friends.
Uh-huh.
From South Africa. I only knew because I said, I couldn't tell if she was more comfortable in English or Hebrew.
Uh-huh.
Like, what's your start them? So she goes Africanist. I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, where'd you grow up? So they were like Catholic and like everything.
Uh-huh.
And she said exactly what you were saying. She said it ends up like 30 families in that community converted together.
Wow.
It started from no one. There's no like about or anything. Her parents learned a lot, and then they just started questioning Catholicism. It doesn't make sense. They saw in the Bible. It's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
But she said that her parents is very important. They come to Israel and be immersed. And she said like 2/3 of the ones who didn't all went back and they don't do anything. They're not Catholics anymore, but they converted. But
they're not really Jewish.
They're Jews who keep not really Catholic.
Yeah. They're secular Jews, Kilonim.
Yeah. They didn't immerse themselves. Exactly what you said.
Right. We're persistent about it. And that's a lot dependent on us. Exactly. That's we have to try to give them the feeling that we accept them and we love them. 36 times it says. So it means the Torah really wants us to work hard on that and offer and suggest either they join our shiurim or they have their own, but somehow the only idea I had which would draw them, I think hopefully would draw them to come to classes after conversion was paying them for it. Pay them for the hour so they'll come. Yeah. It's also helpful. But I think paying is even more. So to think of how to do it, I think it's a national project that has to be somehow begun and can really help out for them to be Gerei Tzedek, really. Okay, the final last group that we speak about in this bracha is Ve'aleinu. We also deserve to be part of this bracha. We haven't yet learned what are we asking for. This whole list of people, what are we asking that they should receive and have? But Aleinu, we're also part of it. Now, what's most amazing is that, again, if we've decided that we're climbing up one after the other, higher and higher level people, it seems like the Aleinu is the highest level. And what does that mean? Right, but
always, when I say it, I think that it keeps getting higher, but then
and also us, like we're sort of lower down. Okay, you could say that. Like we're clinging on to them. They're the highest ones, and we're holding on to them. Maybe it could be that way, but also it could mean like Rav Tzvi Cook explained in the end of the Psukim in Zimmer of Shabbos. So Chinad we say, and then we get to so we have Yesharim, Tzadikim, Chasidim, Knoshim. This is definitely going higher and higher and higher. Yesharim are the ones who are straight, are honest, truthful in their life. That's beautiful. Tzadikim is that they're righteous. They do things extra careful. Chasidim, Lifnim Yishuat Adin. They go highest level possible. And Knoshim are already holy. That's like prophets. So we're going up and up and up. Uvbakalot, rivevot, amcha beit Yisrael. Says Rav Tzvi Cook that we're still climbing up. Bakalot, rivevot, amcha beit Yisrael are the highest level. The Klal Yisrael, the fact that we're all together worshiping Hashem, that's the highest. All the individuals, Yesharim, Tzadikim, Chasidim, Nashim, after all, they're alone. Yeah. And that's something that we see also, very practically speaking, halachically. 9 of these tzaddikim, Yesharim, Hasidim, Kedoshim, 9 of them don't make a minyan. But 10 simpletons, simple Jews that don't know how to read, they come together, minyan. The Shekhinah is dependent on numbers, not on levels. So the moment we're all together, all the simpletons together are the highest possible achievement of Judaism. Oh, yeah?
So there's minimum, and a lot of times they didn't have the 10. The delivery boy would come, and he already knew that they would complete the.
Yeah, fair.
Not that they're the tzaddikim, I'm not implying. I'm just saying you have the people who come to Minna, and then it's like the wall guy who's coming, and they're like,
exactly. Right. And it creates Shekhinah. Shekhinah comes just because we're together. 10 is like a number that represents Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael represented by 10 men. That's how we view the idea of a minyan. So here also, Tzadikim, Chasidim, Ziknei Amcha Beit Yisrael, Pleta Sofreim, Gerei Tzedek, Ve'aleinu. So you can continue climbing up and up and up. By Aleinu, we're saying all of us together. The all of us is greater and more. Hashem appreciates the togetherness of all of us together more than he appreciates the individuals who are a very high level. Now, the individuals lead the Aleinu. They lead us. But without us, they're worthless. As a leader, you have to have the people after you, right? Okay. And then the finally, what are we asking for? So we'll do that. We'll wait for next week to do that, but we'll just read the first line. Yehemuna rachamecha, or Yehemu rachamecha, Hashem Elokeinu. That we should have an abundance. Yehemu is like you're filled with. Rachamecha, your mercifulness, Hashem Elokeinu. So we're asking for Hashem to be merciful with us, and then we'll continue seeing what else is in this bracha. But that's first and foremost, if Hashem judges us by mercy and not by deen, then it's much more possible and way to live a better life. Yes.
On Rosh Chodesh, we said Abraham because it's the Yomer.
Right, especially.
But it's not the sad part of the Yomer for Rosh Chodesh Sivan anymore.
Right, it's not because of that, Omer.
It's not because of that Berchot, Omer. So why don't we say?
Why do we say Abraham? Right.
Rosh Chodesh of Sivan. I know why.
Yeah, Sivan, right. Okay, so the answer is that there are two different phases in historical events that change around the Omer into a mourning period instead of a happy period. One was Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, who died, 24,000, and that's from Tetzai Nisan, from the beginning of Omer till Lag BaOmer, 33 days that they had died those days, so we have them, we mourn over them. But then, unfortunately, historically, there are also the Crusades, the terrible massacres of Shfara, Magenza, Vomaiza, all these towns in Germany and France, where the Ashkenazic Jews mainly were living, and they were cremated and demolished and destroyed. These huge kihilot, communities on the way of the Crusades to Israel. They massacred many Jews, hundreds of thousands. So that happened specifically during the latter days of the Sphira. Dafka, the latter days of the Sphira, Kaf Gimel Iyar, if I remember correctly, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Vav Sivan, all many days within the end of the Sphira period. For that reason, today it's changed a little bit. I think people forgot about it, but for that reason, Ashkenazim really don't. I know it's done today. People do get married, but should not be getting married even after Lag BaOmer. Right.
In America, we never got married.
Oh, Lag BaOmer, right. After even past Lag BaOmer. Wow. Baruch Hashem, Shebuz Machot. Wow. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Right, so Sephardim don't have the custom at all. They finished at Lad BaOmer, Lamed Daled, and then they have everything is free for them because they weren't affected by the Crusades.
Would they say,
I don't think they had that to begin with. By the way, Avarachamim was added on for the Crusades, exactly for that reason. So you have to say it, right? All that is about these communities, right? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Shabbos going into Chag.
Yes.
What were the tricks of
warming up food?
Take the food out of the refrigerator and leave it on the counter.
Eat it for sure.
Right. So we said, yeah. So it has to be in a time that. I'll just repeat the question for the Zoom ladies.
I didn't use it before I changed the question.
Okay. Right.
Phrase it nice.
Okay. We're asking here is what ways can we hasten the warming up of food and preparations between Shabbat and Chag? So obviously we don't have the roof tavshilin because that's in the opposite direction. That's when Chag falls before Shabbat. But Shabbat before Chag, there's no roof tavshilin. So we can't really prepare anything from Shabbat to Chag. So the only way is to benefit from the food we want to prepare for Yom Tov, benefit on Shabbat. But we can't just play a trick, like the phrase was. We can't just, we can't just make believe as if we needed to not really enjoy it. So if we're having, let's say, Seudah Shlishit, we want to take out and warm up food for Seudah Shlishit, and we're really warming it up for Chag, for the night, and then we snitch off a piece to eat on Seudah Shlishit, just a quarter piece of a kugel or whatever it may be. That's not allowed because everyone realizes we're playing a trick here. So only if we actually eat a few pieces, like we show that we really want. We don't have to cut off cut away a piece of the kugel in order to warm only it. We can warm the whole kugel for Sudash Lishit as long as we're taking a reasonable amount. We eat from it a reasonable amount during Sudash Lishit. Then it proves that we really wanted to benefit from it, to eat from it for Sudash Lishit. We had another idea, which right, that can be done, but not towards the end of the day. It has to be done 2 hours before, 3 hours before. So it doesn't prove that you're defrosting it for Chag. It could be for Shabbat. It's not, meaning in your mind it is. In your mind it is, but in action, no one can tell. If you take it out 3 hours, 4 hours before from the freezer, no one can tell what it's for. You know in your mind that it's for Chag, but really no one can tell, so it's not a Chana. A Chana is when it's obviously seen as preparation. But if it's not seen as preparation, then it's okay. And one more point we mentioned once, but this I know the poskim don't use this leniency, but between us, I think it's okay. And that is, it's being recorded. So that means between us, whoever wants to use this. And that is past Shabbat, past Tzedek Kochavim. Past Tzedek Kochavim is Shabbat. So let's say Tzedek Kochavim would be around 8:05, something like that. So we always have Tosefet Shabbat of 15 minutes beyond the end of Shabbat. So it's 8:20, 8:21, 8:22. That was the end of Shabbat, this past Shabbat, 8:21, I believe. So that's like 15, 16 minutes past Tzedek Kochavim. If we shorten, this doesn't help you much, but a few minutes. If we shorten the time after Tzedek Kochavim, that is already regarded as the end of Shabbos totally. Just we have Tosefet Shabbos. Who says we need 15 minutes of Tosefet Shabbos? We can do 5, 7 minutes of Tosefet Shabbos. We can't cancel it totally. No, so we can't cancel it totally or make a joke out of it. It has to be a substantial amount of time. I would say at least 5 minutes is the least you would like to shorten, to have not shorter than 5 minutes of having Tosefet Shabbos. So if you check on the calendar when Tzedek Kochavim really is, and you add 5 minutes to that, then you can start warming up your food, which gives you like an extra 10 minutes before the actual timing on the calendar.
Whatever. You say warm up the food, you mean on a platter, not
the platter. Right. Right.
You would allow us to actually transfer fire?
Obviously, we say Baruch Abdim B'Kodesh LeKodesh. Obviously, we have to say that first. Not Ben Kodesh Lechol, as you would while breaking after Shabbos to a weekday. Baruch Abdim B'Kodesh Lechol. You could say Baruch Abdim B'Kodesh LeKodesh.
So you would actually allow them.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same difference.
It's not the same difference. Putting it on a laptop.
As to actually transferring fire. Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, that's the right and that's the Rabbanon. Yeah. But but if we're considering 5 minutes past Tzedek Kochavim as to Sefet Shabbos as well, we're definitely not breaking Shabbat, running Shabbat in any way. Tzedek Kochavim is the end of Shabbat. There's no violation of Shabbat after Tzedek Kochavim. It's already no longer Shabbat for sure. Past 5 minutes to Sefet Shabbos. What's that? No, meaning the calendar, in the calendar where it says Tzet Shabbat, the time is 15 minutes past Tzet. Every week we're adding 15 minutes for Tosefet Shabbat.
Now, what about when you take the food out of the freezer, if you place it into the warming oven, that's going to go on in 3 hours. That was fine also?
Yeah, right. That was another point. Can you take out food from the freezer, place it into a warming drawer, which will go on in 3 hours? So we said that the action itself, right, because the action itself, it's just putting it into the warming drawer. It doesn't show, again, it's not.
Like storage.
Visible in the meantime, it's like storage, right? It's not visible as it's not seen as a hachana act, and then it turns out later on, which you don't do an action; it goes on itself by itself later on. Yeah, I think that should be okay too. Yeah, we said that right. If you have a warrior joint, it's going or a plata that's going to go on 3 hours later. If you put the food much earlier when it's not going on for now, so in the meantime, it's like a storage place for it in the meantime. And then it gets warmed up earlier than the end of Shabbat. Yeah.
For children, but you're heating it up for children.
During Shabbat, they're going to eat from it during Shabbat.
But you're kind of really heating it up for them.
Yeah, if they eat it, if they actually eat from it in a nice amount, not just a small corner of the whole kugel, that's orma. That's like deceiving. But
If a child's eating a child's portion, then they really eat their portion. It's not like an adult just taking a spoonful to say I ate from it.
Right.
If they're eating
it's what they need, right? But
okay.
Right, but you're not to force it down there, shove it down their throat just in order for the pizza to order the food. If they really want to eat from it,
warming it up to serve to the kids who are eating earlier, the same food
right, that's also fine.
Whatever they eat without you limiting them is really just
right. That's fine too. Correct. But if they don't like the food, what's that? Okay. So I'm saying that's what I said before. You have to try asking them beforehand, are you going to eat from this? Because if you're just warming up everything and then asking them, and they don't like this dish, so it's not real. Ask them ahead of time. If they said yes and then they change their mind, then it's not your problem. But if you ask them ahead of time, if they don't like a certain quiche or whatever, they don't like mushroom quiche, and you're going to make it, that's kids don't like that. Today you're going to like it, right? It's all candies. You can't tell. It's all candies. So to make sure that they like it and they want from it, and then you can warm it up for them for shit and really use it later on, right? Okay. So brachos. Believe it or not, we're ending this chapter soon. Believe it or not, a few nice points to finish off with this chapter. We may be able to finish, well, I guess not today anymore, 12 minutes, but at least we'll get through most of it. Okay. After we've done the different categories of what creates and what defines ikar v'tafel within the foods that we're eating, this part we mentioned as well. Here. This is very interesting. A little bit, again, maybe drop confusing, but it's not very confusing. We can understand this point nicely. What happens if, let's say, one makes a bracha over the ikar, over the main food of the mixture, and the tafel, the secondary food, is no need for a bracha over it, and then they step out of the house, and which means that for some brachos, the brachos are canceled now. We said this many times that ha'etz, ha'adama, and shehakol. The moment you step out of the house, you cancel that bracha. So what would happen if you're continuing to eat only the secondary food of the type of food that the main food was canceled now? We'll give an example so that we understand what goes on. Yeah, give an example. Let's say we're having our famous fruit salad, or let's say even a vegetable salad, which has in it some fruits like mango pieces or apple in the vegetable salad. So the ikar are the vegetables. That's the majority. We say we go by majority. The majority is hadama, so we said hadama. And then we're eating the salad, the whole salad, going through it, the serving we took to our plate. We're eating indoors. Now, we left the house and even came back in. The moment you step out of the house, even if you come back into the place you were eating beforehand, Ha'adama gets canceled. You left the house, Ha'adama is canceled. And so is Ait, and so is Shehakol. Just Mizonos and Amotzi not. So now you come back into the house, and all you want to eat now is the secondary food, meaning just the fruits out of that salad. Before, you ate those fruits without a bracha because they were part of the ha'adama, part of the salad. And the majority was the ha'adama, the vegetables within the salad. So you had no bracha over the fruits that are combined, a few pieces of fruit combined in the salad. Now they're coming back in. Had you continued eating the salad, you would have needed to say ha'adama because it was canceled the moment you stepped out of the house. Now you're having only the fruit which don't deserve a bracha on their own because they're secondary to the salad. But they're secondary to a salad which now you're eating without a bracha. So even if you pick and choose only the fruits to eat, and they were nullified to the ikar, to the main food, to the main salad, since the main salad got canceled now, its bracha got canceled, so you would need to say ha'etz over these fruits. If we eat only the fruits now.
I would think if at any point you're eating only fruits, and even if you made a bracha in the beginning on the ikar, but then you're going to sit there and only eat the tafel, then it's not tafel anymore.
Oh, so at that point, you're semi-right. Just repeat the Sarah's question. If you were to have the salad sitting in your seat without leaving the house, sitting in your seat to have the salad, and then let's say you have left over on your plate only a few pieces of fruit which were combined in that salad before, and now you're just eating the fruit alone. So he said, for that, the answer is the following. It is still nullified to the ikar, to the main food that you said the bracha over, providing it's a small amount, insignificant amount that's left over. If it's an insignificant amount, let's say you wouldn't eat 2 or 3 pieces of apple or pieces of mango on their own to sit down and eat mango. You eat a larger amount of mango when you sit down or take a snack as a mango or take a snack to eat an apple. You eat a whole apple or half an apple. But just 2-3 pieces of apple, that's not something you sit down to have. It's not a certain amount, a serving amount that people normally take, even as a snack. So then you do not say a bracha, even though you're left over only with ha'etz now. It's still the leftovers of the salad, so they're still nullified to the salad. When do we say a separate bracha? Again? If you would eat that amount, just stop suddenly in the middle of the day, you would eat just 2-3 pieces, small pieces of apple, then okay, then you should say the bracha. It's personal, yes. It's a personal amount that you yourself take it as an amount you consider to sit down for, to have normally during the day as a snack. But if it's more than that, if it's the amount, then you say B'rei Prayetz, even if though it's leftovers of the salad that you did not say ha'etz for as you were eating the salad. So that's what it depends on. That's our famous case for those who don't say a bracha over the milk with their cereal. Those who don't say a bracha for the milk because it's just to give some flavor to wet the cereal. So if they're left at the very end of the bowl with just milk, so it's the same difference. If it's the amount of milk that you would pour into a cup and drink, then you should say shehakol in the end, even though you've eaten the cereal with the milk during the whole time you were eating from the bowl. Now you're left over with only milk. If it's the amount you would pour yourself into a cup and drink during the day, then you should say shehakol now. If it's not that amount, if it's less than such an amount, it's only a quarter of a cup. Usually you pour yourself a cup of milk during the day to drink. You don't pour a quarter of a cup with milk. That's usually not an amount to drink. You drink half a cup, a whole cup. So if it's that amount, little amount left, you don't say shehakol, even though you're just drinking milk now at the end of the cereal. it's left over only with the milk. You don't say shehaku because it's still nullified to the cereal. That's what it depends on. So normally for the salad coming back in, being in the house and having a small amount left over, you would not say Bari Pratz. Now that you left the house and came back in, since the main food bracha got canceled, so there's nothing to cover the minor food, the secondary food, to be able to not to say a bracha. So then you have to say a bracha, even if it's a tiny amount, even one small piece of apple. You want to eat when you come back in, you have to say Bari Pratz.
And if you didn't leave the house, but you went to the house for 20 minutes.
Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We said within the under the same roof, unless you've distracted your mind totally from continuing to eat. You thought you're full, you're not touching anything else, and suddenly you decide you want to have. That's the total distraction of Hesech Hadat. Then you would need to say a first bracha even in the house. But normally, we're always eating. So we're always thinking of food. So it's not something that we completely cut ourselves away from. And therefore, even if you go to the couch for 20 minutes, half an hour, come back, you don't have to say a bracha. Under the same roof, we continue the bracha even for hours later. As long as you had your mind on continuing, you had in mind to continue, that's fine. But as we said many times, in such a case, if it's just a salad that you ate and half an hour went by, so you can no longer say it after bracha, right? The fashas. You missed that. So it's never good to leave the kitchen without saying an after bracha, because you may lose the opportunity to say an after bracha, right? The fashas. And after you said the after bracha, then going back to eating the leftover of the salad, you would need to say hayetz or hadama to finish up the salad. So it's always take in mind all these ideas. So now, if
you could say the bracha outside.
Bracha outside is Bari Nefashos, yes. Bari Nefashos doesn't need to be said where you ate actually, but Alamicha and Rikas Hamazon should be said where you ate. If you forgot, you say wherever you are, right? If it's a nuisance, if it's a bother to go back. If it's not a bother to go back to where you ate, you should go back. Why? Why did you say the after bracha in the kiddush? Oh, I'm forgetting? Forget. Uh-huh. Okay, so. Okay. By the way, another point is that Alamicha and especially because Hamazon should be said seated. So it's also a problem. No, then better off saying it standing, right? Right. Yeah, Birkas Hamazon, you mean? Hamotzi Lechem? Yeah, the first bracha. Yeah, especially if you're including others in your bracha.
But if you're washing it at a wedding,
because being motzi others. To be motzi others better than everyone seated. That shows more of a having in mind to be yotze. You're all seated together. What's that? Drinking Havdalah. For who?
Sitting with the stand.
Sitting with the standing. It's customary to sit down before you drink it, but yeah, it's all customs. These are all customs. No actual strict halacha for that.
Doesn't go with the hamotzi.
No, like Kiddush. Why aren't you asking about Kiddush also? We stand up for Kiddush Friday night. Yeah, but when you say the bracha, that's the main point when you be yotzi someone, not when you drink it. You be motzi someone when you say the bracha. Say the bracha standing up, because Kiddush is something that we regard as respect to, first of all, we say by Yechulu, which is like testifying that Hashem created the world, and that's like an aid, like an aidus, serving like an aidus, and that we have to stand up for. Be an aid, you have to stand. When you're in court, and you're a witness, you have to stand to say your facts, your testimony. And if and for the rest, some people sit down actually before they begin Bari Paragafa, they sit down, and that's again to include everyone, to be yotze everyone. Some people stand through the whole kiddush, even if they drink it seated. That's not the main essence of it. Why do you sit to drink it? I think it's more like the seuda, like to feel Right. When it comes to that, it's like the beginning of your meal. Sit down to start your meal, right? Anyhow, yeah, but these are all customs. They're not strict halacha. Now, if you... Yeah.
Take like a bag of cereal and eat it in your second on your house, and then you want to go out to the car and take it, like continue eating the car, you take another broccoli.
Okay, so it depends. These things are done a while back. Yeah, right. So I'll do it again. It's good to repeat. The question here was, if you have cereal, let's say a bag of cereal, holding a bag and having dry cereal in your house, and then you go out to the car, you want to continue eating it, you have to say a new bracha. So it depends the actual way you began eating it. If you're on the threshold of your house, on the way out, you said the bracha, then it continues out with you, and you don't have to say another bracha when you leave the house and go to your car. But if you sat down or you were standing and schmoozing in the house and saying a bracha, it's not visible that you're on your way out. You're seated somewhere in the house or talking to someone, say a bracha. Even if you prepare it and thinking that this should continue for you to continue eating it outdoors, it doesn't matter. If you sat and ate and not on the threshold of leaving, you have to say a new bracha when you leave the house. So bracha achrona you say after the whole serving. You don't have to say it when you start eating. You can say when you finished eating. When you finish eating, say bracha achrona over the whole thing.
You have two brachas on one bracha achrona?
Yes. Right. You can have two bracha rishonas and one bracha achrona. Because the bracha achrona does not get canceled or no effect on the bracha achrona where you are. The location has no effect on bracha achrona.
You're making another bracha.
Right, so best not to leave where you are. Exactly. Best not to leave the house after you've said a bracha over something. But if you need to go, so it's a bracha tzricha. You can't help it. You need to go and you want to continue eating. So that's the circumstance which requires another bracha. So it's two bracha rishonas and one bracha achrona. Unless time goes by, too much time goes by between eating in the house and eating outdoors, and then you should say bracha achrona over what we ate in the house, and then do bracha rishona and achrona outdoors. But if you're continuing straight through, and not more than half an hour, more than 72 minutes for a larger amount of food, then you can keep on going with the bracha rishona. This will finish with one last line about the ikar betafel. I thought we were going to close to finish the chapter, but we just did a drop of it this time of brachos. So one more point: if you're having something that's main food and secondary and minor food together, combination, and then leaving the house, but the main food continues with you, the bracha continues with you outdoors, which is hamotzi and bizonos. Let's say you have crackers, you have some crackers with cheese on it or tuna on it or whatever, crackers and the secondary food on it. So when you say the bracha, you say only bizonos over the cracker and cheese. You say only bizonos. Now you're going to leave the house and continue eating crackers with cheese outdoors. Or even more so, only cheese or only tuna fish outdoors. Had you had that with the crackers indoors, it would have been secondary. Now again, the amount is the amount that you would spread on a cracker, not a whole container, a whole can of tuna fish. Then. A whole can of tuna fish, you would have to say shehakol even indoors with the cracker. Because if you're eating it alone, the whole can, you're just putting a little bit on the cracker, but then eating a lot of tuna on its own. So a lot of tuna means that it's on its own. It's not combined with the crackers. You're spreading a little bit on the cracker, and the rest you're eating just the tuna. You don't want to fill up on crackers, you want to fill up on tuna. So you would say shehakol, besides bizonos. But if, let's say, you had only a spread over the cracker of tuna fish, so you say only bizonos. And now you leave the house, and you want to have only a teaspoon of tuna without crackers. Had you had that in the house, indoors, you would not have needed to say shehakol, because a small amount is still nullified to the cracker. Okay? Now you're going outdoors. Outdoors, we said before that if the main bracha gets canceled, you would need to say a bracha over the minor food. But here, Mizonos doesn't get canceled outdoors. Mizonos continues with the outdoors, like a motzi. So, wow, doesn't go off. It's an alarm. Okay, it's not a. Okay, yeah, we're finishing. We're finishing. It's time to finish. So, if you would have had a cracker outdoors, you would not need to say another mizonos. You would not need to say mizonos because mizonos carries with you outdoors. So there's a little bit of tuna, a little bit of cheese they're having outdoors as a continuation of the cracker and cheese or cracker and tuna they had indoors does not require a first bracha. So it all depends. Does the main bracha continue with you outdoors and then the minor food gets canceled and nullified to the main bracha which you said indoors, or does it not?
And then it's still smaller.
And it's still small enough amount, right? Because if it becomes a large amount, then you would need to say even indoors a separate bracha. So it's a small amount and carries on with you as you go outdoors. Then you do not say a first bracha over what you're eating outdoors. But if it's a large amount, or it's a type of first bracha that gets canceled when you leave the house, like shehakol, adama, and eitz, then you do say a first bracha over the secondary food, even if it's a small amount, because it doesn't carry on with you as you leave the house. Okay, it's a little complicated, but I think it's the rules are understandable and feasible. Okay, shkoch. Have a great week.
Thank you. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. Very welcome. Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.